No, I'm kidding. There is no better side. My wife's always saying, take a picture of the side.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Everybody.
Good morning.
Well, I'm very, very blessed to be here today, moderating this conversation. As John and Lauren mentioned, my name is Aki Wande Oshodi, AO for short. I've been involved in the NCMA Atlanta over the last, I think, decade now. It feels like it's been a minute. I was the past president, and I'm also a board member of the NVSBC. So veterans mean a lot to me, and I'm very, very fortunate to be speaking with an Air Force veteran. I'm an Army veteran. Dr. Oh, sorry, Navy.
Yeah, I know, we didn't get any Navy representation. Okay, good. We got some Navy out there. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So I'm here to be with Dr. Stephen Powell. So Steve, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, your company.
Sure. Thanks, AO. AO introduced me to NCMA, so I'm really glad to be here today. It's my first time, but just from the folks I've already talked to, it's been quite a good experience already. So just getting to know some of you. Our company is Synensys. We're actually a Georgia-based company. We're headquartered down in Peachtree City. We have just about 55 employees, and we've had some more at times and less at times. But we work in the safety management space. So our safety management focuses on healthcare and also in the aviation industry, which is my original background, brought me into the healthcare space. So that's a little bit about us. We're a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, and we work in pretty much everywhere you'd think we would in the federal health space, around the VA and Defense Health Agency. We also have done work in the FTA and some other agencies you're familiar with, but currently our aviation works mostly with military aviation.
Thank you, Steve. So many of us are entrepreneurs, work for a veteran-owned company, or aspire to be in the federal GovCon space. What inspired you? How did you take your service to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna probably use a few pictures. Get that picture off of there. Yeah, so I'll kind of set the stage. I do the slide. Remember the people that are old as me, that had the slides. When the slides came out, you were like, oh boy, this is gonna be fun. But a lot of old pictures. That's my dad on the left side there. He was a Navy guy too, so it's kind of in the family. And then over to the right, the next gen, that's my son. He's a fighter pilot in the Air Force, so he's the real top. I mean, I call myself the top prop because I flew P-3s in the Navy. And again, some great opportunities there. But I think it was, I put the graduate school up there because you think about where you came from in the Navy and all the opportunities you got to learn. And that was my first big opportunity was getting a chance to go to the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey to learn safety. And once you learn safety, no matter where you went in your career, you're the safety guy. So it's really weird too. There's a great book. It's called The Defining Decade. If you read it, it's about what happens to you in your 20s. So I don't know if we have any. I know Riley's here. Where's Riley? One of my colleagues there, and from our shop. And I know she's in her 20s, but it's such an important decade. And I gave the book to my children when they were in their 20s. But it really defined me about who I was going to be in the future. Just by reading about most of your experiences in your 20s will kind of steal, what you're going to be probably for the rest of your life. So that was a big important part for me. But I think the connection was really after I got out of the military, I transitioned to Delta Airlines. That's how I ended up here in the Atlanta area. And so again, what happens? I just want to fly some airplanes. It's what I'm good at. And Delta immediately says, "Hey, you went to safety school. We're going to put you in the safety department and help us with safety management at the airline." So I did a lot of that over the years with Delta and got to great experiences, great training through the Delta experience as well. And then all of a sudden, I have this kind of bridge not coming together here. And this is where we really sort of brought together. My dad ended up suffering a medical error here in the Atlanta area. And again, the error that occurred during his health care was preventable, right? But you could say, well, was it somebody's fault? No, actually, it was a system that was set up in a way for people to fail. Instead of thinking through, oh, it's just this person. If that person, another person would have been on duty that day, the same thing could have happened to what happened to my dad. And so when my dad was lost, it was the opportunity here was, wow, you mean you didn't have checklists? I mean, that's what we had in the cockpit, right? You didn't have, these redundant systems or engineered systems that would tell you something was not correct or give you feedback and those kinds of things. And being as a human factors engineer in my training, I was like, oh, these are so important to us in the cockpit. Wouldn't they be important to doctors and nurses? And so that was my big aha. That was the big opportunity that I was like, wow, that's not in place. My dad ended up passing away at an age that he shouldn't have. He's about my age when he passed away, and we lost a lot of years with my dad because of that preventable medical error. And then to understand, as it started, I was in graduate school at the time, but to understand that medical error in our country, and it's not just a U.S. problem, by the way, because we've worked in 12 countries around patient safety efforts, but medical errors in our country is the third leading cause of death in our nation. And very few people actually realize that when you go to a hospital, you're really taking your life into your own hands. There's infections and there's all kinds of risks in place. So that was my opportunity. How could we take what we learned from my military training, also from my airline experience, and bring some of those safety practices into healthcare, and kind of been on that journey ever since.
That's been a really cool transition. Thank you for sharing that. I think Dr. Covers just mentioned, like, if you're a sniper and you don't think you have business skills, you have transferable skills. So you're just a testament.
Yeah, the big one was, when you showed up and you've got these really high-powered surgeons and, advanced practice nurses and stuff, and, critical care nurses, and you're a pilot and they're trying to figure out why you're in the room with them, And I certainly didn't speak their language, so there was a lot of work I had to do to kind of, learn their vernacular, learn their language, learn their workflows.
So how long have you been in business, Steve?
So we just celebrated this year's our 20th anniversary as a small business. So I definitely think it's a milestone event, and really take it every milestone, and whether it's 20 months or a year or 2 years, make sure you take a moment to celebrate the fact that you're still in business as a small business, because so many, go by the wayside and don't make it that long. So we're really proud of that effort.
20 years is a huge milestone, so congratulations, Steve. Even just thinking about it as a small business owner now in this environment, 2025 has been a whirlwind, right? What are some things that have happened throughout those 20 years that you've had to persevere through, that required a lot of resilience? And talk to us about how you've been able to navigate that.
Well, I think the word that you hit on was resilience, right? So resilience, what is it? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. I always say when the going gets tough, the resilient get going, right? So think about it that way, is that you build, resilience is sort of something that you're always depositing into, right? Like you either have it or you don't, right? And then you're always looking for ways to really rebuild your resilience. So resilience is a core value of our team and our company. And so a year like, for instance, this past year, if you're in government contracting, I called it, I think it was actually a Tuesday, but we called it Bloody Tuesday. It was the day that almost 900 contracts were canceled in the VA. And about 75% of those were small businesses at that moment, back in February. And so that was quite a night. I remember on the phone, and it was kind of after hours, and so that was a big moment. That we all went through the pandemic. That was a big moment. We go through the shutdowns that we just came out of, the longest shutdown in history. How many shutdowns have we been through where you're not sure whether you're going to be able to pay your staff or keep them working, or you're going to have enough cash flow to get through those events? Going along with, mostly I learned a lot about, as a business owner, as you try to grow, one of your biggest problems is cash flow, right? And we talk about this, you and I talk about this a lot, and back in the 2008, 2010, when we're only like a 5-year-old company, we're on that cusp of our growth spurt at that point, and getting in some good growth. overnight we find that all the banks in Georgia, all the banks, you couldn't go to any bank in Georgia and get a small business loan. Now maybe SBA was still doing some loan programs, but if you weren't in them, you weren't going to get them at that point. So that's where you're just thinking, how do I take a loan for my 401k to pay everybody's salary for the next few months until we get through this crisis. So it's been quite the journey, quite the challenge. And I'm sure the pandemic was equally challenging for all of us in here when you couldn't go to a client site, or you couldn't get out, or whatever, the shutdown and whatnot. So we've all been through, probably, if you've been in this business or any business, you've been through a lot of challenges, but those are a few that we had to overcome.
So talk to us a little bit about the mindset. How did you keep yourself motivated and calm? How did you keep your staff motivated and calm through some of those tumultuous times?
I think the calm under the pressure. I tell this story. You've heard me tell this, but it's really funny because being a pilot, it is really always it's always good when people say, "What's the worst thing that can happen to you in an airplane?" And I said, "Well, it's probably a fire. An engine on fire." I mean, unfortunately, that crash in Louisville told us what disastrous impact that would have if your engine catches on fire, right? But the very first thing you do when the engine catches on fire is you silence the bell. So get rid of the noise, right? That noise alerts you, but don't let it control you, because if you can't get rid of the noise, you're going to not be able to really fight the fire well, right? And you're not going to do it methodically. I think that's one of the things in the military I think we all have been trained to do, which is in an emergency or in an emergent situation is being able to continue to stay calm, be able to communicate with each other and really find out what signals you're getting that are true and which ones aren't, and then kind of move out from there. I think the other thing is along with that is the trust. Is that if you build super amounts of trust with your team, then when you have real challenges, they're there for you, and you don't have to sugarcoat things. You don't have to hold it all in on yourself. You can share it with them. This is what's happening. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but this is the facts as I know them, and keep giving those facts out and be transparent with your team. Try not to shoulder as a business owner or a director or something. Try not to shoulder all the burden just for yourself, because you gotta, if you've got that trust with everybody, they're going to come alongside with you, and they're going to be your wingman when needed, and they're going to help you through those difficult times.
I think trust is a huge component, especially during tumultuous times. Not even just with employees, but also with partners as well. Some of the, we have a lot of small business opportunities are going by the wayside, and we have to depend on some of our large partners. So trust, establishing that trust early on is very, very important. Thanks, Steve. One thing I wanted to ask you, 20 years, very, very long time. Thinking back, where you sit now, just celebrating the 20-year anniversary. What are some things you wish you knew that you could share with somebody just starting out into the federal landscape, or even just the entrepreneurship track?
Well, I wish I'd have known more about events like this. Thinking about it as an early small business owner, I just wasn't as exposed to some of the organizations that just got up and talked about how they're supporting veteran entrepreneurs. I should have got a lot more plugged in earlier on. So kudos to every one of you for being here, because this is where you need to be. This is where you're going to get support. As I went along, I sort of gravitated towards those veteran entrepreneurs, and I'm really thankful for that. I wish I had just started there, and been involved with them. I think, like, from a business model perspective, this came from my pastor. So I guess he talks to a lot of businesses out there, but I thought it was a really good way to think about your business. Is he says, marry your mission and date your model. Okay, and I thought, oh wow, date a model? Yeah, my wife's pretty. She's pretty. No, date your model, not a model, right? And so marry the mission was really, really important, right? So our mission is to help organizations that have high risk be able to manage that well and do it safely and get the safest outcomes they can possibly get with the lowest risk possible, right? So that mission has never changed for 20 years. It's always been the same. I can tell you what though, our model has definitely evolved. So you can evolve that model constantly, and you need to. Otherwise, you're not going to be relevant, right? But marry your mission. Stay married to that.
That's beautiful. And it's just knowing you over the last, year and a half, 2 years now, I know the mission means a lot to you. Thinking back 20 years, how did you define success? And how does that differ from how you define success now?
Yeah, I think the success then and now really different, expands, right? But it has one thing in common. I think exactly what you're talking about is, for us, success was impact. It was always impact. What kind of impact are we having, right? And initially, that was lined up with the value that we have, which is service excellence, of course. So the impact was, how well could we deliver that service to the clients that we have and to the partners that we serve, right? So that was, when we started, that's kind of where I was like wired in on that, man. I was nailed in. And along the way, my wife of 42 years now, she was, one frustrating time when we weren't maybe delivering as well, or not getting as many contracts as we wanted, or whatever it was. And I was like not feeling the impact of that I thought I needed in my life, and or we needed to be as a business. She said, have you thought about all the people that you work with over the years and what kind of impact you're having with them? And I thought that was really important, because through our organization, we've matriculated, we have, current employees, but we have alumni. Over 600 employees have kind of come through our organization, and they go on to do amazing things, whether it be in safety or other industries. But you're a stepping stone for someone who's moving through and moving on, as well as you are for the people who are there for you today. And so that was a big part of impact now, is how I'll be able to impact, that workforce, and like the ripple effect, that they're going to go impact somebody else as well. And then I think that the other piece is realizing that, financially we won't need to make money. We're not, if you're in a for-profit business, you've got to make money, and that's part of, what is it, no margin, no mission, or mission margin, kind of thing, question. But what's really interesting is, as you become more successful in your business, is the ability to give back to your community. And that's one of the things that has really added to the impact, is our ability. We started with a small program. I think I might have a slide, but just some of the efforts. But going back to some of the pieces there, where this slide, kind of like I wanted to have that up there. But if you haven't seen, Jeff Henderson wrote a book called For. And the key message here is, and it really inspired us, years ago, and when he wrote the book, which is, what are you known for as a business? What are you known for? And then what do people know you for? Right? If there's a gap between those two things, that's what you're working on to try to close from a brand perspective, right? And if it's clear that your brand, that what you want to be known for is what people know you for, you're creating something exactly the kind of alignment that you really want. But Ford really helped us, and what we took that to heart, and we created our community outreach program here in Atlanta, and really we have employees in 30 states now. So we let all of our employee group actually nominate local organizations within their communities that they feel were a part of, helping vulnerable populations within their communities. And this kind of approach, we started just with 4 organizations. This year we're going to serve 26 organizations in our 4 countries. So I would say the impact really is multiplying, as you move out. And how it inspires me is thinking about the next 20 years of Synensys, and what kind of impact we could actually have 20 years from now if we keep this kind of a pace up, and again, sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So I know it's not a straight line. You draw it on your map that way in your strategy, but it never goes that way. It's a little bit more meandering, to get there.
It's funny, I probably should have gotten this book when I first got started, see, because I had it backwards. I was thinking about the money, the impact. But what I've realized, to your point, is the more impactful you are to your customers with the relationships you have, the money will eventually come. And then in turn, when the money comes, you can always give back. So I appreciate that, bringing that full circle for me. I don't want to monopolize all the questions with Steve. I know we have a couple more minutes. Does anybody in the audience have questions?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Yes, please. Gentleman in the back.
What was your experience like working for Delta?
Oh, it was a great experience. Delta, it gave me so many, again, thinking about, like, if you could write your, like your ideal job, I think the idea would have been, I would have never left that cockpit, probably had it not been to sort of the call that I received to sort of say, maybe I ought to be doing something else. But when you get that call, and no matter where you are, you're going to go because you have something more to do in this world. But working for them was just an amazing experience. So we're very fortunate to have them here in Atlanta. They do so much for our community, and it was great. I mean, they sort of think that way too, around get you thinking about, like, they were big supporters of Habitat for Humanity and all of the other different work that they do here in the community. So again, they always got us thinking that way. And I think the other thing that they were really ingrained in you from day one is your service excellence, your service to your customer. It was the only airline when I was a pilot where it was just our standard practice to greet people when they got on the airplane and when they got off the airplane, when you were standing at the door. That was really important. Make eye contact with folks and really thank them for choosing our airline, because literally that's what paid my paycheck, and it was also, if they didn't come, we didn't get any profit sharing. So it was super important, and everybody in the company could rally around that sort of understanding of why you were doing what you're doing. Sort of your job of flying you from point A to point B safely, that was up to us, but we had a whole team that supported us in that as well. So great company to work for, and taught me tons and gave me tons of opportunities to learn as well.
Yes, please.
Okay, so do you know offhand what your size standard is, and are you concerned about reaching it where you fall into or?
Yeah, we're an SCVOSB, and what's good is that it's been adjusting, with SBA adjusting some of the thresholds, and depending upon where your NAICS work is. We were fortunate this year. We won our largest contract ever this year in a really weird year, right? And that was the opportunity came because we were just under that NAICS threshold, and it was going to be either our partner, that was going to be able to do that, or we were going to be able to do that. So knowing that is really important, so you can position yourself either as a prime or, sometimes we were sub, on some of those works. But eventually, yeah, there's that. But for those that we were talking about mentor protege programs earlier, joint ventures. Learning a lot more about the power of the joint ventures. So there's ways for you to take advantage of that small business set aside sort of opportunity there. So, but they also ratchet ahead with the contract size. I think when we first came in, it was around 11 or 12 million, and now it's probably double that, right? For depending upon the NAICS codes that you're in.
Yes, sir. Can you talk about your financial start in terms of starting your company, what that looked like, avenues you were able to take to acquire funding? Because let's not kid ourselves, that's the lifeblood of the business, in the beginning, especially.
Yeah, I'll tell the story on that is that bootstrap, right? Those first 5 years are just grueling, right? And I can't imagine anybody's not experience that. I don't care what kind of, your service, your software and service, it's kind of a grueling first 5 years. So I think you really have to be ready for that, it was kind of a weird conversation, with your wife's like, are you going to ever get paid for all the stuff you do, right? And, so, we'd have to have those conversations, and I was fortunate that, I did some, sort of was able to do some, have 2 jobs at a time for a little while before I could, move on to full time. So there was some of that going on. I think at one time I had 3 jobs, and I went to graduate school. I was 11 years out of the 20 years that we've been in business. I've been in graduate school. Got my master's, got my doctorate, and all of that. While I'm also building a business and delivering on the services. So I think it's just it was thinking about how you use maybe ICs, of course, at times. When can you bring somebody on full time? Always really making sure that you have those key hires. Boy, you invest a lot in them. So pick wisely. And certainly made my share of mistakes on whatever they were. So if anybody wants to hit me up for on LinkedIn, grab a hold of me. I'll tell you all the mistakes. Please don't make these mistakes. I will give you. It'll probably take AOs knows we've got many more sessions that I'm going to download all my mistakes on. Probably over some tacos or whatever we want to have for lunch. The next time around. So yeah.
Yeah, wanted to jump in on that, Steve, because my transition was interesting as well. Starting a business, you're not going to get credit from a traditional institution like a bank because there's no revenue coming. What happened with me is similar to you. I was moonlighting with the Avery Group while I was working my full-time job, and I was trying my best to deliver to my full-time job. So much so that I had enough money saved up for a little bit of a runway. But when I told them that I was leaving, they brought me on as a subcontractor, as an individual contributor, built up some past performance, built up some capital, and then we were able to start making hires. But factoring, individual performance are probably the best ways to generate past performance revenue. Factoring is just like, hey, you want a contract, we need to make sure we have positive cash flow.
Yeah, we were very fortunate, I think, with the startup of the business because there was a defined opportunity, that gap that you were talking about, that we knew we needed to fill. And it was really defined, and so we had that sort of assurance that we were the ones that could probably deliver that uniquely because it was such a niche, opportunity that we were serving on a specific contract. So it helped, knowing that you had some business that was going to immediately go into the pipeline.
And don't be afraid to do work on your own contracts. Like I'm still delivering as a PM right now on a few of our contracts because, we have to make sure we make revenue. And if I'm working, that means it's better for the company.
Yeah, no, I think I'm still billable, so out there. So yeah, I haven't figured that completely out, but also I really enjoy the work. So the team's always kind of like, oh, you got to do more of this and less of that. And I was like, I really like this project. It's like awesome. We're gonna make this big impact in wherever it is. I was talking to Jacob out there, and we were just talking about rural health. That's a place where we're kind of all talking about, as a real good opportunity. And I was thinking, wow, that's a place that's not been served well. So let's see how we could serve out there as well.
All right, last question.
Yes, Daniel.
I was listening to your experiences earlier in the presentation. Have you ever read a book called The Checklist Manifesto?
Yes, I sure have.
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, it's a great book. Yeah, Dr. Tulkawande wrote that book, and he actually I trained him when he was a resident on some of those practices around checklists, and a program that we built for DoD, for Defense Health Agency, is called Team Steps, Strategies and Tools to Enhance Performance and Patient Safety. In that program, we got to train the American College of Surgeons, and he was one of my students. I said, you did well, the uptake was really good, for him. But he also wrote another book that's great if you're dealing with aging parents, and that phase too. It's called Being Mortal, which is also a really, really good book that he wrote.
Well, I think that was the last question. Thank you for your time. Audience, thank you.